Hi, you have arrived to Little Victories, the video game podcast where we celebrate every win, no matter how small. I am your host, AndresPlays. Today, I share a conversation with the wonderful Jenny Windom, Communications Director of Ivy Road Games and host of the Wholesome Direct showcase. Learning about her experience in the gaming industry, the powerful timing of Wanderstop, and about indies of all genres alike was delightful. Please enjoy. Hi, Jenny. Thank you so much.
Hi.
Thank you so much for making the time to talk with me today. I'm a big fan of everything that you do. And actually, I think that this is your birthday month. I was listening to your podcast of
Yes.
Gigs and
My
Grounds.
goodness. Thank you.
So I hope you have an amazing time. And actually, today, July 17th, it's actually my mom's birthday as well. So
Oh my gosh, birthday buddies. Happy birthday to your mom. That's wonderful.
thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'll tell her you said so. And as well, congrats on the 5th anniversary of the Wholesome Direct.
Yeah.
It's a little bit surreal to for me to talk with you right now because I've seen you on my TV screen. I've seen you for
Yeah.
many years now. I think that since 2020, I started looking at the showcases more often than not, and I think that the Wholesome Direct spoke to me ever since. But yeah, how you doing?
Yeah.
How's life treating you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, surreal is kind of the right word for me too, in terms of just thinking about where we've come from 2020 to now.
Yeah.
Wholesome Direct began as just not necessarily just a passion project, but it was just driven by like our hope to do something in a time that was really rough, and
hmm
to see it continue on after so many years, and for us to be publishing games now, it's just kind of, yeah, surreal is the perfect word for it. And it's not something I take for granted or any of us on the team take for granted. And so we just are really happy and feel really fortunate that we're able to do this and celebrate the games that we love more regularly with more avenues like the showcase. We've got Steam sales that we do now. We've got the publishing section or the publishing arm. So it's like,
hmm
yeah, it's kind of incredible.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, the Wholesome Games presents now
Mhm.
publishing side, which I am very excited. I just found out that you are going to publish Fishbowl, which I played the demo and
Yes.
I
Yeah.
talked with,
Oh.
yeah, I briefly talked with the developers and they seem very kind and the story very
Mhm.
personal and heartfelt, which is definitely in my lane. I honestly
Yeah,
really
that
look
was
forward to that.
a demo that I played and I instantly fell in love with. And so when they approached us for publishing support,
hmm
yeah, for me personally, that was a very easy, like, all right, let's see what we can make happen. And the whole team's excited about it, and it's really nice because it's our first more, I would say, narrative game as well. And so that's just
hmm
exciting to see just the variety that we're going to be having in our portfolio as we continue to work with teams.
Yeah, I saw that you have about 5. I only wrote down Fishbowl and Minami Lane, which is now available on all major consoles, which is amazing as well. Congrats on that.
Yeah,
Um,
we've
yeah,
got Make Room coming up in August, as well as The Sea Taken coming up in August. And then Usagi Shima, shout out, that was our first title and just an absolute treasure.
of course. Yeah. And I mean, as you know, I very much love indie games, showcasing them and giving them
Mhm.
the spotlight. I think that, the most creative endeavors are on the indie side of the gaming industry. So I think that you are somebody that has very much put them to the forefront, which is, something that I admire a lot.
Thank you. Again, it's like it's a team that makes not just Wholesome Direct or Wholesome Snack, but the community. There's a lot of people that go into making it happen. Like I always am amazed at the translators. Every year they come through and they're able to make these translations so that people can enjoy the showcases in their languages. It's incredible to see how so many people are excited by this and so many people come out of the woodwork to make their time and energy available to like have this be a thing that everyone can celebrate together. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
really cool to see.
Yeah, I think that, as you said, surreal because you're really got on the zeitgeist of it, because wholesome games, I think that we live an uncertain period. So I think that the wholesome brand itself, I think that really arrived at the right time. So I can see that could be a little bit nerve-wracking, you being the host and the face of it all, but you're nailing it. You and the whole team are nailing it, so
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, before we start this interview, I wanted to ask, and this is a question that I always ask all of the developers that I interview, and I think it's a fun one to start with, to know more about you, your background and your story. What video games did you grow up with, if you can tell me?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. We were a Nintendo household for sure. And so I grew up we started with the SNES, and I grew up on a lot of RPGs. I remember Super Mario RPG was a favorite with my brother and myself. We would trade controllers and like play. Yeah, we also were really into like the Nintendo 64 when it came out. And I remember
Hmm.
playing a lot of Mario Party, a lot of Mario Tennis with my mom who loved Mario Tennis. But I was always
Yeah.
driven to, yeah, more RPGs and like story driven games and farming sims. So as soon as I was able, especially with Harvest Moon 64, that was like the game that I hunted down. It was in a Barnes and Noble. Like it was super
Hmm.
hard to find because it was such a niche game at the time, and there weren't
Yeah.
very many copies just in around the place where I lived. And yeah, Harvest Moon 64 was like the game. Accompanied with, yeah, RPGs like Final Fantasy. My dad bought Final Fantasy 7 for the PC, and so my brother and I would play that a lot as well when we were kids. So yeah, a
Yeah.
good mix of, yeah, the farming sims, uh, lots of internet games once those came out, Gaia Online, Neopets, and then, yeah,
Yeah.
RPGs.
I heard you talk about on another podcast, like about the wholesome brand and your affinity for these kinds of games. You said
Hmm.
we've always been here, right? Like
Yeah.
Neopets and Harvest Moon, and of course Stardew Valley now, which the developer said that it was a direct inspiration. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's cool. Like it's amazing to see because you think, oh, a farming sim, Harvest Moon did it, but then we had Stardew Valley, which is absolutely this behemoth. It's amazing, and
Yeah.
then now it's cool to see even more really solid farming sims come through, like Coral Island and Fields of Mistria, especially. I think have really
Mhm.
taken on these strong takes and fresh takes on like what farming sims look like now, and it's really cool to see. So I love seeing how even though we feel like we have maybe explored the genre of farming sim, we still are getting a lot of new stuff to dig into.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And I mean, I'm very excited to talk with you because of, you're the communications director of Ivy Road Games of Wanderstop. And we will talk a
Mhm.
little bit about that in a
Yeah.
moment. But yes, it really reminds me of how it's not stale. I just said, the most creative endeavors are there. When you think you've seen it all, you haven't, right?
Hmm. Yeah, I
So,
think it's really cool that the tools to make games are more accessible, and more people with more just different perspectives are coming into the industry. And so when
mhm,
you get the combination of the two, you get things that you haven't seen before, haven't encountered before. Like I love Coral Island in particular has a really wonderful perspective because it's a farming sim that's created by folks in Indonesia, I believe, primarily Indonesia. And so
mhm.
you have fruits and vegetables and crops that you encounter that you maybe wouldn't normally, or foods and just references. And so it just enriches the whole experience. So, yeah.
Yeah, I've been seeing that a lot as well with, for example, Until Then, right?
Yes, exactly.
That it's very grounded in cultural context. So
Hmm.
yeah, you
It's
you even
cool.
learn stuff about the games when you're playing them.
Yeah, Until Then and A Space for the Unbound are two games that are both, I mean, they're both ones that you need to just like be ready to cry. You're going to cry really hard for both of them. But
Yes.
they do a great job of really, sometimes subtly, sometimes not so subtly, teaching you about the places that these developers are from.
Mhm.
And it's really cool. Like, I love seeing that. It's neat to learn about the world through games in that way, too.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I hope that I can put Mexico on the spotlight someday because I think
Yes.
there's a lot of stuff we can do here as well.
Absolutely. Well, and shout out to David and the whole LAGS team, the Latin American Games team, because
Oh
they've done
yeah,
a great job of showcasing games like Despelote just came out this year, and
yeah,
there
from
are games.
Ecuador. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so cool to see because there are games coming out from all these places around the world, and many of them are very wholesome and just
Hmm.
really great about sharing life and like slice of life, in these different places. So yeah.
Yeah, I just to take a little moment to talk about this pilote. The thing that I really loved from the trailer, it's just, the sounds can really just
Mm-hmm.
take you there, that like you're that kid who is, finding his passion for football and finding his place in life and all of that.
Yeah.
So to be able to capture that moment and
Yeah.
portray it for, the world to see is beautiful.
It's really good. Highly recommend.
Yes. All right. So continuing on, as I just said, you're the comms director of Abbey Road Games. You had worked with Kepler Interactive before, but your journey in the video game industry, like, was this always your goal? Did it just life took you that way, or how did it happen?
It's funny because life definitely just took me this way. I grew up always wanting to be an educator of some sort. I wanted to be a teacher, middle school and high school, and I was a teacher for middle school and high school for years. And it's funny because my brother was actually the one who was going to go in game dev. But while I was a teacher, I was also exploring ways to bring video games and game narratives into the classroom because I taught language arts and social studies. And I was experimenting, and just for fun, I was like, oh, well, I'll create a YouTube channel and post videos on there. And after experimenting with a couple of different games like horror and things like that, I really settled into covering indies. And through that, a company actually found my channel because I was covering a lot of the indies that they had on their platform, and they were a lot of niche, like even for indies, kind of niche titles. And
Yeah.
they reached out and said, hey, would you like to work in video games and do
Wow.
content creation, community management, and social media? And I was a teacher and I needed money. So I was kind of like, yeah, that's cool, like why not give it a try. um, did it for a few months and realized they were able to offer me, honestly, a little bit more security than teaching at the
Hmm.
time. So I was like, well, let
Yeah.
me try this video game thing. Then I can always go back. I'm sure I'll go back to teaching because how long could this last? How long could I do a video game job for? And
Amazing.
yeah, I've been here for years now. So it's been really cool.
Yeah, yeah. You, as I said at the beginning, you really made a very positive change, and it's amazing that background that you're as an educator. Because on my last episode with Alfred Comiello, this composer, we were talking a little bit about educators and teachers and how important they are to every one of our
Hmm.
lives.
Yeah. No, I wish I could have stayed. I admire everyone who does stay long term because especially now, it is a rough job to do. It is a pretty thankless job a lot of the time, but students are really
Yeah.
cool and worth it. So yeah, teachers are very important.
Yeah, I was. This is just a tangent, but I was just watching Abbott Elementary. I don't know if you've watched it.
Oh my God, I love that show.
Yes, right. I just love it so much, and it's so hopeful but so funny at the
Mhm.
same time. And what you said, the students, the kids, the future. As cliche as it might sound, it really warms the heart.
Yeah,
To
yeah,
see something like that.
yep. It's very wholesome, which is very on brand.
Absolutely. And now that you've said the magic word,
Right.
how did the journey to make the Wholesome Direct begin? And now, as you mentioned, the publishing arm with the Wholesome Games Presents.
Yeah, so Matthew and James are the two sort of founders of like the social accounts and Wholesome Games as a whole. And pretty shortly after, I feel like it couldn't have been too long after they created that, I had met them just online, and I was going to pitch a panel idea to PAX East. It
Hmm.
was like what, February or March 2020, and I was like, I'd love to do a panel about the importance of cozy games and why we need them. And that was actually our first time meeting in person. We were all at
That's
PAX. We
fantastic.
had a great time, and then everything shut down, and we had lockdown. And so We had been talking, and the idea got tossed around about doing, because physical showcases were no longer a thing, something digital to just bring a little bit of joy into people's lives and bring a little bit of something fun, and replace the
Hmm.
opportunities that developers had lost because they weren't able to show their games physically. And so we, you know, that's when the first direct really began. We reached out to, it was a lot of reaching out to developers, and seeing,
Hmm.
who would just have something to share, because obviously we had never done it before. And so it wasn't like
Yeah.
we could do submissions, like we do now. And um, it came together in a really, really wonderful way. And people loved it. Like, I think it was, for a lot of folks in the community, kind of this like really highlight moment in a time when we were all just not very happy. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, it did so well. We just kind of kept running with it, and we haven't really looked back since.
Yeah, it just snowballed into what it is now. I know
Mhm.
that you have showcased over 350 games. I'm not going to name all of them here because it would take all of our times. But if you can see right behind me, I have Lil Gator from
Little
Lil Gator
Gator
Game, which I'm
game.
sure the game was showcased there. Mythrex, Ambrosia Island, which I also interviewed the developer, and Nayad, of course, which you shadow dropped
Mm,
last December, right, for the
yeah.
Wholesome Snack, which I absolutely loved. I very much loved that experience because talking a little bit about what Wholesome is, from what
Hmm.
I've gathered, from what I've seen, is that it's not just something that just makes you comfortable and keeps you away from the bad things of the world. I think it's
Hmm.
socially conscious. It gives you a sense of community.
Yeah.
And it also sometimes talks about difficult subjects, right? I was watching a friend play. I was a teenage exocolonist, which it
Mm-hmm.
talks about some really mature themes, right? And so does Nayad, right? There's a part where the mermaid that you
Mm,
control, so to speak, um, goes through these very polluted areas, and I think that's very, it's it's so sad to see because like that is what we're doing with the environment, really.
yeah.
So there's some really cute and wholesome parts of the game, but it also doesn't shy away from showing the truth of
Yeah.
what you know life is sometimes.
Yeah. I think you bring up a really great point, because I think a lot of times, and I even do it too, when often it was, we use the words cozy as a synonym for wholesome. And one thing that we've been trying to really emphasize, and one thing we have done, is really try to separate the ways we distinguish the two from one another. So for us, like you were saying, wholesomeness is more than just the comfort.
Hmm.
Wholesome can be cozy, but it also encompasses, like you said, the social activism, the awareness of perhaps not so pleasant things happening, and being able to approach them, but in a safe environment where you feel like you can um, address those topics and not feel too stressed or too worked up over it, I guess. I don't know. That's
Hmm.
maybe not the best way to put it. But um, whereas simply coziness, I think, is important and great to examine and great to have in games. But for me, um, coziness is about more of that just comfort, a little bit more about that escapism. Um, and it doesn't necessarily offer some of the stuff you can really chew on that wholesomeness, I think, kind of brings in, as far as we've defined it, at least.
Yeah, and I think that's something that a lot of people, I mean, at least the ones who are quite connected with the brand, you have brought in a lot of content creators, great, amazing content creators who nurture these kind communities, and, to galvanize all of those communities with the Wholesome brand. I think that they are all sort of aware of that as well. It can be a safe space to address these very difficult issues sometimes, and
Hmm.
not just the niceties. Like you see the whole spectrum, I would like to think.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it, where it isn't just about sort of the nice for the sake of being nice, or cute for the sake of being cute. Yeah, there
Yeah.
is a little bit more depth that we hope, when people see the shows or they engage with these types of games, that they do see, and that they do allow themselves to think about and appreciate. And that's, I agree, like the content. I mean, I'm biased because we select the creators that we worked with, but I really admire all the content creators we work with, because they have in all of their own ways, carved out these spaces online where they do just that consistently. Like these are folks who are streaming every day, but
Yeah.
using that opportunity to not just play games and create fun moments together, but to also bring attention to stuff that needs to have attention brought to it and do things like fundraisers. And it's
Mhm.
really one of my favorite parts of the show now is the opportunity you have to highlight some of these folks in addition to the games, because we know like the gaming community is about the games we play, but so much of us, engage with games even when we're not playing games. We're watching them on YouTube, we're watching Let's Plays, we're seeing a live
Yeah.
stream. So it's really exciting and important for me that we continue to highlight creators who are doing some really good work.
It's amazing. I think I now, on my notepad I always have it ready when I'm watching the stream, and now I don't only write down games but also content creators that I want to check
Yeah.
out.
Oh, that makes me so happy to hear. Yeah. One of the things that I noticed, and this is a relatively recent development, the inclusion of content creators, but it was cool because last year I had noticed a little bit of that, but especially in the latest direct, we had folks who I think were essentially doing like the equivalent of raid trains almost, where
Mhm.
once a creator popped up on the screen, people would go to their channel. And if they were
Wow.
live and like broadcasting along with the show, they would get, this influx of viewers who are like, yay, hype, you were just showing, you're just shown on the direct. And so seeing things like that just kind of are happening organically, it's just really heartwarming for me. And I hope it's a good experience for the creators. And I always hope that we can like make this a valuable experience for them and a really positive experience for them, like co-hosting an event like that.
That is incredible. I did not know about that, but that's just the most beautiful part of it, right? When you create something, as you said, with your team, and then it snowballs into its own thing, right? And people just
Mhm.
do things that didn't know that they would be doing that, and it's just wholesome in the sense that it shows support, and it's just like it really can make somebody's day, right? A array, some subs, some bits. I mean that,
Mhm.
like, I just stream once a week, and like I end up very tired, and I see
Yeah.
people doing it like, yeah, from Monday to Friday, and like always keeping their cool, being kind, being open to whoever it is that comes in to listen about their issues, and like, I don't know, it's just very beautiful to see people helping each other like that. I don't know.
Mhm.
All right, well, that's beautiful, and I also just wanted to briefly mention that you also donate to charities, right? Went with the
Yes.
Wholesome Direct as well.
Yeah, it's a really really important part of each direct where every year, and it's so hard because we care about so many different things in the world, and so we always wish
Yeah.
we could do, if only we had more time and more showcases, we would do one every day and fundraise every day, but we do make it a point to always make sure that something good in the real world happens because of the show. And so the fundraisers that we do, we always have a shirt. I should have worn it today, dang it, because I just got in the mail yesterday. The
Yeah.
the shirts that we do that are show specific, they're like kind of this limited edition featuring the characters of the game. It's like the thing that we have done every year, and it's just really cool that it's become just ingrained in our DNA and just a part of what we do. Like there's no question that we're going to always try to do some sort of fundraiser or something good with the showcase and the time that we have and people's attention that we have.
Yes, yes, definitely. I will also try to. I will add the link as well, because the designs are also so cool. I love them.
They're so good. Yeah, shout out Gina and Saffron are our two artists. Saffron did the key art and Gina did like the pile up character shirt. And yeah, they did an incredible job.
Yeah, I see it. I mean, I saw it in just this past month with the showcase. It's beautiful. The design, it's quite eye catching. I love it.
Mhm. Yay.
Well, now is the time to talk about Wanderstop. I very
Hmm.
much love this game. Of course, I reached out to you. I think that this game, ever since I saw it, ever since I saw the trailer, I think that it spoke to me in a way, right? Maybe the pastel colors, the art style, and that sort of detail that it was not just going to be about something cozy, but something about more serious, under the veneer of a cozy game.
Hmm.
So I was quite stressed, honestly. Like, I didn't know if I should take it, but I knew that that was a game that I needed. Well, not needed, but I really wanted to be a part of the conversation,
Mm.
um, because it's one of those games that doesn't come out very often, and I think it's probably going to be my game of the year
Oh
because
my
of how I
goodness. Thank
resonated
you.
with it. But yeah, before I keep on rambling on, I wanted to ask, when did you start working with Ivy Road Games, and what piqued your interest when you saw Wanderstop?
Um, oh gosh, I think at this point it's over a year, just over a year ago since I started working at Ivy Road. And it was primarily because a friend of mine who was also working there at the time reached out and was basically like, "Hey, we're working on this game. With your knowledge about like the wholesome and cozy genre and sort of aesthetic that has been cropping up and your just general sort of experience marketing a game, and we don't have anyone who's doing marketing and comms. um,
Yeah.
would you like to come work here?" And at the time I hadn't been looking for work. I actually I was at Kepler. I really loved working at Kepler. I have such great memories, but I was also feeling a little bit of, a little bit of fatigue because of the time difference, and I was kind of itching to try something a little bit new and get back to a little bit of studio work versus publisher work. And so it kind of came at the right time for me to switch things up a little bit and you know go back to the studio setting instead of publishing. And
Yeah.
yeah, it what piqued me about the game, I think, is what hooks a lot of people. When you play in that first 30 minutes, you meet this character Alta, who is clearly going through it. She has she's skill as a fighter that she's kind of lost. Well, she's literally lost the skills. She can't even lift her sword, but she's lost sight
Yeah.
of really what is it about fighting, that really kept her going. And I think that is, like you said, it's a theme that resonates with folks, especially now. I think when we're in the real world, if you are paying attention to the news and looking at things, it's hard to feel the motivation and passion for things when you maybe have other things on your mind. And so this idea of fatigue, perhaps burnout and loss of direction is something that I connected with. And I thought this is really special and I'd love to be a part of it. And so I said
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Oh my God. I very much love that. I think it was a great fit, you and being the image of the wholesome direct, and what Wanderstop represents as well. I think that, this year especially, I've been writing professionally for about 3 years now.
Mm,
But this year I started to stream, create videos for my YouTube channel, and
hmm.
also write reviews, which is like a bunch of work piled on over my 40-hour day job.
Right.
So something that happened around that time, around March, because all January and after that I was working a lot, right? So I remember this one day I, like, turned on my PlayStation and wanted to play, but like nothing caught my attention. So like that
Mm,
was very scary. Like I was that had never happened to me before. So I start playing, Wanderstop, and I play a game for like about an hour, and then, like, to get the feel for it, to see what the game's trying to do,
hmm.
for me to connect with. So I played it, and I said, "Oh, okay, I kind of see what the game's trying me to do. The game wants me to slow down, so I will slow down. I'm not gonna, the game is the antithesis of what a reviewer
Yeah.
does, right? Because a
Yeah.
reviewer just wants to, like, churn out, like, finish the game as quickly as they can and churn out the review and
Yeah.
go on. But in the case of Wanderstop, it's the complete opposite of that. You really need to be in that mindset.
Hmm.
So I was, and that message that is carried throughout with the different characters, Alta's realizations, Alta's own behavior, right? Being so stubborn and angry, and
Mm,
losing her patience quite often. I don't know. It just really resonated with me, and of course, I teared up at the end. But yeah.
yeah. Yeah. It's funny because I'm always happy to hear that it's connecting with folks. I'm a little bit like, oh, it's bittersweet because it shows how we're all just a little bit tired right now. We're all just kind of needing a little bit of catharsis. And so I'm happy the games provided that for so many people. Yeah, no, that's really, I appreciate hearing that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I jumped at the chance to talk with you about it because, I mean, as I said, it's a very important game for me, and I think that in today's world, the message that it's giving is one that I haven't seen before. I remember, I don't know, some other games like Season or Jusan, that kind
Mm,
of talk about other themes and topics, but this one honing in on burnout specifically, I think is one that I, as you said, like it's great, but it's sad that so many of us
yeah.
resonate.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
funny that you mention, being a reviewer and having that pressure to like finish the games fast because also from what I hear, at least, usually keys are often given with very short notice. And so you're not just sort of rushing it because you want to, but you almost have to get stuff out on time. And I remember, I can't remember exactly how much further, but I remember we were pushing for like a little bit longer time, like trying to get the keys out as early as we could because we know that it would be very weird for us to give like a week, for review keys for those reviews to be made. And so it's funny you mention it because I remember that being a very conscious thought that we needed to give time for people to play the game.
Yeah, it's so funny because I was talking with a friend of mine, who is also a reviewer, and he was so conflicted because he's always very goal driven in games, right? That's the
Mm-hmm.
beauty of it. Like we're all so different in the way we play games and we approach them and engage with them.
Yeah.
So he was like, there are moments in the game, right, when Alta, when she arrives to the clearing with Voro, this burly nobleman, who wants to help her, who wants to tell her to chill out. There are times when customers arrive in and you have to fulfill their orders, and then there are times where you don't have to do anything. Like you can just like brew a cup
Yeah.
of tea for yourself and just sit down and just chill. So he
Hmm.
was like conflicted because he was like, well, what do I do now? Where's the next step? And the game's
Yeah.
like, no, just chill, right? And it's
Yeah. Just take a
difficult.
second.
And it's difficult for some people to embrace that relaxation, let's say.
Hmm. Yeah. Definitely also like shouting out the team for making a world that it feels good to be busy in, like with our plant system. Like I love our plant system. The team did
Yeah.
such a great job with that, and the ways that you can like combine seeds to create new fruits and things. But so it feels good to be busy in this game. The tea machine feels really good to just like go around and
Yes.
sort of throw the ingredients in. But what I am so impressed by, and sometimes like I think the impressed feeling grows even more the more I think about it, is this game is a game that also feels good to not do things in. Like it's a game where you can just sit and it feels really nice to just sit and look at the scenery. There's
Yeah.
books in the game, and if you just sort of chill and you want to read a book in the game, you can. And so it's really neat just the ways that the team has brought in all of this stuff, um, very intentionally to create a world where you can do both depending on sort of where you're at.
Yeah, and one thing that I wanted to mention to you specifically is that if you remember, there are like weeds that might prop up in the
Yeah.
clearing, right?
Yes.
That you can cut off. And there was a sort of bug, at least in the first chapter,
Yeah.
that the weeds could just like grow unexpectedly in all over the clearing, right? And just infestate like the whole area, right? And what I found brilliant, what I found like my head canon, so to speak,
Hmm.
is that I thought that the clearing, full of a lot of weeds so everywhere, was like a representation of Alta's mind. So I was like, oh my
Oh,
God, these developers
dang.
are brilliant. Like, how did they think of this? And then I
That's
found out that
funny.
it was like a bug or something. So
Yeah, I remember what you're talking about. I think it was basically, well, the timer, we had to turn down the rate of the weeds popping up, but also folks would in the spirit of the game, like sit down, have Alta sit down and just like look over the clearing, and then they would walk away from the game. And so what happened was also that the timer for the weeds kept going. And so you're sitting there and weeds are just continuing to propagate. And so people would come back, and the screenshots we got were so funny because people would say, I come back and I am just surrounded by these brambles. And it was really funny. But yeah, we definitely got that patched up as soon as we realized what was going on.
Yeah, I mean, for me at least, it worked perfectly. I was like,
That's
yes, this
good.
is how Alta is feeling. This is brilliant. Like, this is how she's feeling represented physically in the world, right? I mean, at least
Hmm.
that's how I saw it.
I love it. You
So,
should keep the headcanon for your playthrough. I think that's great.
yeah, no, brilliant, brilliant. Yeah, props to the team. What a
Hmm.
beautiful game. And in that same vein, who's your favorite character? Was meaning to ask.
That's so that's so hard because I think there are a lot of characters in the game that it's like depending on sort of what you need that day, that character will give you something a little bit different. Um, I have it's funny because everyone loves Boro, and I actually wasn't really a Boro fan at first.
Oh my god.
Boro has won me over, though. I think the more I've gotten to know Boro, the more I've gotten to interact with Boro, Boro has grown
Mhm.
on me quite a bit. Um, oh, that's really hard. I really like Nana, the grandma, the shopkeep, capitalist
Oh,
shopkeeper.
yes.
She's so Oh my gosh, she's so grating in the best ways. I think she's probably one of my favorite characters, just because of how just sort of rude and capitalistic she is. She just makes me smile every single time. So I think she's my favorite character. She's got this mug. Um, it's like, what is it? It's got the brass knuckles instead of just like a regular handle, and it
Uh-huh.
says die on it. It's just, I don't know, something about her. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah, I love her. I think that she was like the only character who you could like equate to Walter, like in terms of the perspective or the personality, right? And I think that I really
Hmm.
liked Alta, for example. I really liked her. I sadly could connect with her in more ways than one regarding being stubborn. I was very stubborn when I was a kid. I was a little bit of a brat, if I'm honest. So like not asking for help, being too headstrong,
Hmm.
um stuff like that, getting angry easily. Like I connected with that, and it really really hurt me when people were trying to reach out to her and be like, you need to take it slow, you need to really like
Yeah.
take care of yourself. And she's like, no, I can do this. Like I'm not gonna hear anybody of you, like. And
Yeah.
yeah, that was me, like many years ago already, like I was when I was younger.
Hmm.
um but yes, I connected with that, with her, and with I think Zenith. I think I found to be
Yes. Yeah.
the funniest character, Zenith, the celestial
Hmm.
being that appears in the clearing,
Yeah.
that is just fascinated with everything and everyone, right, to the point where she becomes this office worker.
Yeah. I know. It's such a funny, it's such a funny line.
Yeah, that was very unexpected,
Hmm.
and I won't say more. For people who are interested in the game, to see how it all unfolds is so
Hmm.
funny and so brilliant. Like,
Yeah. No, and it's what I really love, is everyone explaining like the parts of each character that they connect with and why, because I have noticed it's like really dependent on sort of personal experience and life experience who you connect with and why. And
mhm.
yeah, it's really cool. Like I think Boro is definitely a standout, the Pluffin's definitely a standout, but
Yes.
beyond that I feel like we have a pretty even spread of how many comments or sort of like fan art or things we'll get, with other characters. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's great. Actually, I've listened to a few podcasts about the game, and that is very true. Everybody, they choose the knight or the magician apprentice, right? So it's quite amazing to see. Like it could also be like a psychological test of some
Yeah,
sort.
it's definitely maybe telling where you're at.
Yeah. Well, in that same vein, what is your most memorable moment from Wanderstop?
Oh, do you mean like in the game itself or like maybe
Yeah.
just working on it?
Well, that's great now that you bring it up. Like
Yeah.
both,
Yeah,
if
both.
you want.
Oh my gosh, most memorable moment. And I don't want to spoil, so I'll pick
Mhm.
something. I guess maybe one of the most impactful initial moments for me was there was a point when I first played the game, and this is all stuff from the demo. So if you've played the demo, there's no end game spoilers. Um, there's a point where you enter this clearing, you talk to Boro, and Boro's like, "Come meet me in the tea shop," and you can you can go meet him at the tea shop, but you also can choose to run back out to the forest. And it was really funny to me and really impactful that again, one of those moments where I was like, what does this say about me? Where I immediately turned around and decided to run back to the forest. And I tried it a couple times, partially to see like how the dialogue may change or what may happen. But
Mhm.
um, I thought it was also just like a really interesting moment when you get to the point where you're just like, I really can't keep running. And I think that for me, especially when I had played it, was a really just interesting sort of concept to think about as a person who typically is the one that's a little bit of an overachiever in sort of like in school when I was a kid and in the things that
Yeah.
I do. So I thought that was really impactful when you leave the sword sort of on the stump in the clearing.
Yeah.
That for me was also pretty impactful. So some really good moments there. Working on the game, gosh, I think some of my maybe my favorite moment was when the demo first went live. It was during like Steam Next Fest, I believe.
Mhm.
And we started watching people play and react to it. That's usually one of my favorite moments in just working on games is that first time you see people engage with it and see what it starts to become when it's not really yours anymore as a game, as a studio.
Mhm.
And so that's really cool is to see just how people take it on and make it their own. And so that was really fun, especially because this is such a personal game. And people would get really vulnerable in their streams and the way they talked about it and the way they would stop playing just to sort of
Wow.
process what was happening.
Wow.
That was really cool to see. So that was nice. So I think that was my favorite part of working on the game.
That's incredible. Yeah, I that what you did at the beginning of the game, talking about the gameplay, I did the same thing. I think
Yeah.
uh, 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 that part of me is still a little bit there. Like, no, let's see if let's see if she can actually like
Hmm.
because when they give you the choice to do these kinds of things, you're like a little bit curious as well.
Hmm.
But of course, I felt bad, because it was obvious that she
Yeah.
was running away
Yeah.
from her problems, which is something that you should never do.
Hmm.
um, but yes, and what you said about the demo, and of course now that the game is out, that is such a beautiful thing, and I mentioned this last time, with the composer, right? When a musician releases something into the world, it's not theirs anymore, and I think that seeing how emotionally charged Wanderstop is, I think it must be so fulfilling to see streams. I streamed it, I think, as well, and I
Hmm.
think I didn't tear up, but I did feel a little emotional at some point because it's the game itself allows you to talk about these very difficult topic that you wouldn't otherwise. And as I said at the
Right.
beginning, not many games of that type come out very often. So I can imagine how rewarding it must have felt.
Yeah, and I think it was really cool because it was also sort of the first time, like as a team, we had a Slack channel and everyone was sharing like, here's a stream that I'm watching that's really cool, or here's a clip from a stream, and here's the fan art that people are starting to make, and um, yeah, that was really exciting because I think there comes a point in game dev where if you do not allow players to play the game, you just sort of lose yourself in it. Um, and the the moment when developers first see their games played by people is really important. That's why events like PAX, are critical, I think, to like not just, boost wish lists and get visibility, but it's like a morale boost.
Mhm.
And so yeah, having that during Steam Next Fest, because we hadn't, if I'm remembering correctly, we'd done like digital showcases, but we hadn't really had any. I don't think we had any public hands-on. So the team, especially folks had been there for, 3, 4, 5 years working on the game without the feedback of really seeing people sort of en masse play it. And so I
Right.
think for me, in addition to watching players, it was just really nice to see the team get this moment of like, okay, we're on the right track. Like people are receiving this and engaging with it in the ways that we hoped. So that was really nice.
Yeah, I remember, I think it was Davey talk a little bit about how ironic it was that he was making a game about burnout and he was feeling quite
Yeah.
burnt out about the whole development process itself. Um, but yes, what you mentioned just there, the morale, of course, the morale boost is much needed. Can imagine after so many years,
Hmm.
behind closed doors working. And on that note, if it's not too personal to ask, like, how do you unwind when you feel burnout setting in?
Oh man, that's a great question. So because of just the nature of what I do, and just how my brain likes to work, I lose track of time very easily. And so oftentimes what happens more than I would like is like I start work very early in the morning. I get hyper focused in on what I'm doing and I look up and it's like 10, 11 p.m. at night. That's not
Whoa.
good. Nobody should emulate that. And I've been,
Yeah, that's a lot.
working on improving, but anytime I find myself getting into that sort of like work fixation and not giving myself fun things to do and like other things to do, life to do. Um,
Yeah.
just being really strict by going outside. I think the value of regular walking is something that um, feels really funny to say, but a walk, like a 15-20 minute walk once a day, it is like magic what it can do for your mental health and your ability to not get bogged down, I think, in certain patterns. And so, yeah, for me, just like making sure I go outside, touching grass, as the gamers will say, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you just said that right. I 2 years ago, I started having. I think I've always kind of suffered with anxiety, but it didn't have a
Mm,
name right back then. I think, but I had to start listening to my body. I wasn't feeling like comfortable, like in any situation.
mm.
So I started taking steps to get better, right? And one of those steps is um, was walking every morning or evening. Just put on my headphones and put on some of my favorite music, which also the
Hmm.
soundtrack by C418 is also part of my
Yeah,
playlist now.
they did a great job.
They did. But yes, I think that that really did wonders, especially because I write as well. And, I mean, I'm sure you write, like working on writing blurbs and writings and like, is this punchy enough? Will people
Yeah.
resonate with it? Like being stuck or having writer's block, I think walking like shouldn't be overstated how important it is. Like it's so silly, but it's so real.
It's ridiculous. And you see the memes online, people are like, "What? I drank water and I went on a walk and I feel better? What are you talking about?" But it's kind of incredible how straightforward it can be sometimes. That's sometimes all you need is just, yeah, a glass of water and a walk, and things will have, if not totally improved, at least slightly improved.
Yeah, I am very glad to hear that you're working on yourself. You give a very composed vibe, so don't think too much about it.
Yeah.
But I'm glad because we need you. Like we need your presence on the games industry right now.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, that's
So take
sweet.
care of yourself.
Yes. Yeah. I've been definitely trying to do better, and taking care of myself.
That's amazing. And talking about marketing itself, you did a great job with Wanderstop. I think that marketing a unique game like this one is quite difficult, right? Because the sentence to describe it on PlayStation is a narrative-centric cozy game about change and tea. And I think that's quite great, straightforward, direct. But it also is about much more than that, right?
Hmm.
So, what have you learned, right, from marketing at Wanderstop?
Yeah, there were a lot of lessons. I think for additional context, sort of the director and like the lead sort of developer of this game is Davey Wreden, and he is very well known for other games that he has made as well before Ivy Road became a studio. So he released the Stanley Parable, which is quite well known among indie game fans. He also released the Beginner's Guide, and the games that he has previously released are all very like, here's a twist, and here's sort of like tongue in cheek, and
Mhm.
there's a bit more of this like meta stuff happening where I think players going into Wanderstop, especially the very first time they saw it, and they saw it was, he was, one of the directors of the game and one of the leads, and they see this and they think, what is the twist?
Uh-huh.
And so what was challenging was really setting expectations that this wasn't a game with like a twist or like anything that would, be, I think, traditional in the sense of what they were expecting from a,
Mhm.
a quote Davy game. And I think it did help that we, as a studio really tried to focus on like, hey, here are like here are these sort of moments where we're going to have Davy and some other team members talk about the game and how it's just, these are based on sort of real feelings, experiences, and just not try to pretend we're like making a sneaky something or other,
Uh-huh.
you know? So that was probably the biggest challenge. I think the other big challenge was there there was a lot that as a team we had wanted to keep hidden in the sense of we didn't want to spoil some of like the other characters, some of what happens in the clearing, in terms
Mhm.
of just this idea of change. And so
Mhm.
we were pretty much only relegated, or for me specifically, I was relegated to only showing stuff that happened and happens at the beginning of the game,
Mhm.
which when you're showing off gameplay and trying to create copy and posts for months, the very beginning of the game isn't a ton to work with.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, got really creative at sort of saying things in different ways and trying to embrace like just different ways to reuse stuff. So that was
Uh-huh.
very educational. And I think as we progressed, we also tried to focus more on the fact that this game is a narrative reflective experience, less on like, we didn't want people to associate it with a farming sim, for example, which is often like what people think of when they think of cozy games. Um, and especially because we had planting, that was a
Yeah.
very quick assumption people made, was that this is a farming sim. And so that was something we really tried to nip in the bud as quickly as we could. So it's finding ways to set expectations, and looking back, there are different things I definitely would have done, but I feel like overall
Mhm.
we did a pretty decent job.
Yeah, yeah, that is fascinating because when I saw the trailer, the first trailer that I saw, what caught my attention, other than the art style and that whole thing, was that sort of twist at the end, right? At that,
Hmm.
not everything is as fine as it seems to be, right? All of the voices
Right.
assaulting Alta, right, and being like, "Don't think of it, don't think of it." Like,
Yeah.
I think that's when I just said, like, what is this? Like, I need it in my life. I don't know what I'm gonna do or what it is about, but I need it. Like,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think it it's interesting because it gets the premise of the game across very clearly. Like, you're in this ideal place. Alta isn't happy.
yeah.
Why? But I think what folks who were familiar with like the Stanley Parable and Beginner's Guide,
Hmm.
they were like, that must be like the intro to the twist. But we were like, no, that's just what it is. That's all it is. And all not in the sense of like that's it, but it's, that encompasses what we're trying to convey. So like, don't go in
Hmm.
expecting something wild and different to happen.
Yeah, and I think that there's also certain staples because I just played the Stanley Parable
Right.
Ultra Deluxe Edition until very
Yeah.
recently. And I really like that. Like, I think there are some staples of what Davey does. I would like to think, right? Like, the Derek Warkhart books.
Yeah.
Some characters like Zenith or some other situations, right, that happen when the seasons change. I think that some of them are a little unnerving and
Hmm.
twisty, like maybe not in that same sense as meta commentary, but
Right.
I don't know, I was quite satisfied, like, with
Yeah.
those twists.
That's good to hear. Yeah. And I think yeah, it's interesting because I think also what I appreciate about Wanderstop is like you have Davy who's like really strong at what he does, and it's Davy, and then he's brought on this team of like the animators, the concept artists, the designers, like everyone who's on the Ivy Road team allowed
Mhm.
him to create something that I don't think he would, he wouldn't have created this on his own. And so I think what's
Of
really
course.
cool about this is that my hope through what we did was to try and like convey that like this is more than like quote another Davy Reedon game, because this is an Ivy
Yeah.
Road game. This is something that that many people have worked on together to create. And it may have these elements that you're familiar with because this one, the director, but
Uh-huh.
it's got all of these people in it who have all added their own strengths.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the tea brewing machine. I read a
Mhm.
blog a while back while I was, doing my analysis for the review, and the animator went to talk about it at great length, and it was very interesting to see,
Mhm.
to describe how Alta moved. Her animations and
Yeah.
the ladder itself and everything. Like, it's true, like it feels very satisfying to use the machine itself.
Mhm.
So as you said, it's not like an auteur work, it's an Ivy Road teamwork.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that. I think I know the blog post you're talking about with our animator. And yeah, it's like, it's things like that where I was just, honestly, this team had some incredibly talented people. And so, yeah, it's just really cool to see how it all came together in the end.
Yes, definitely. I totally agree. I This conversation has been very cathartic for me because it's, as I said, a game that I very deeply resonated with. And the final question to wrap up this great podcast, I would like to say, you as the face of the Wholesome brand, I wanted to ask you, just this funny question, like, which genre would you like to see given like a wholesome twist, right? Because, as you said, a lot of people relate cozy or wholesome games to, farming sims, but there's a lot of other genres that could be tackled, I think.
Yeah, oh my gosh, that's a great question. What's funny is my initial instinct would be like horror. I'd love to see, but we're seeing actually this sort of like mini explosion, I would say, of a lot of games that are that draw from cozy elements and wholesome like themes, but have horror in them as well. Um,
Yeah, Grave Seasons comes to mind
yeah,
most
Grave
recently,
Seasons
right?
comes to mind. I think Dredge is a really interesting one. Like the story isn't necessarily wholesome. Um,
Yeah,
I think maybe depending on the ending you get, but the mechanics are certainly very cozy and they feel very
they are.
cathartic to play and relaxing to play. I think I don't know if I've seen like a cozy roguelike. I think
Ooh.
that's like an interesting maybe design challenge. I don't know. Now, as soon as I stop the call, I will probably think of like 10 cozy roguelikes. But I think this idea, like
Yeah.
roguelikes and roguelites, they have this sort of discomfort in the sense that you are constantly having to redo and constantly having to like create new builds or sort of restart the run. And I know as for me as a player, it took me a long time to get comfortable with that concept, this idea of
Yeah.
being okay failing. And so maybe, I don't know, a wholesome roguelike would be kind of fun to explore.
I like that, and I hope it comes to fruition after this. I hope somebody listens and is like, yes,
Yeah, I
I'll
hope
do
someone listening
that.
isn't like, this game exists and this game is already out and it's a cozy like if it does, put it in the comments or on a post somewhere and tag me. I would love to know if it exists.
Oh, you'll be fine. I think that's great, and I mean, I think that's why it's an open-ended question. I was thinking maybe
Hmm.
like a Souls like, because I was watching
Yeah.
a specific character, Emily from No Small Games. I
Yes.
was
Oh,
watching
she's
her
great.
stream once. Yeah, she's great. They're both very lovely.
Hmm.
And we were talking a little bit about how I realized with this whole advent of wholesome games being so prevalent. I realized a couple of years back that not every time I want to like kill something or be violent, right? And
Yeah.
that's the whole thing with Souls likes. You have to die a lot
Mm.
and kill a lot as well. So I don't know if there could be like a wholesome twist there. I mean, just spitballing, I think, but yeah.
Yeah. I'd love to see it. Maybe I don't know. Now I'm starting to conceptualize, so I won't ramble too much. But I think there could potentially be ways if you just like again, I think the interesting thing about a lot of wholesome games is when they take the core mechanic that we're familiar with, like the comparison I always make is first person shooters and photography games because
Mhm.
mechanically they function very similar where in first person shooter games you have your reticle, you're in first person perspective and you're shooting things to kill them. But with a photography game oftentimes you move into your first person perspective and you have the reticle so that you can aim to frame the shot and you're taking a picture. And so really it just takes someone looking at this Souls like sort of genre and the
Mhm.
the hallmark mechanics of it and saying, well, how can we reframe this? And that person
Yeah.
is smarter than I am, and so I will let whoever is inventing that to do it. But I think it is, and that's what's really exciting about wholesome games to me is that it's just expanding the way that we look at the world and expanding the perspective that we have so we can just be a little bit more interesting, in a lot of ways. I think it's good to have
Mhm.
what we're familiar with, but it's good to try and push and see what else can we do with it just so that we can have even more options when we want to create stuff or when we want to experience stuff.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, that's such a wonderful answer and such a wonderful chat. Thank you so much for for
Yay.
taking the time to be here, for giving these insights on Wanderstop, to learning more about the wholesome directs and the wholesome games. And I just wanted to say that I recently watched the Superman movie, and
Nice.
what
I'm going to go see that this weekend.
have a lot of fun. Have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
The movie, I it wanted to. I wanted to like tear up a little bit near the like halfway point of the movie, because I realized that what it's trying to tell you is that you know these icon is just about being hopeful, and I think
Mm,
that what you and the wholesome team have created is also about being hopeful. It's talking about like kindness being the real punk rock. I think that's what the movie message is saying.
yes. Oh my
And
gosh, I love that. Yes.
yeah, and I think that what you guys are doing is absolutely the same, and I think that we need that in the world now more than ever, because being happy is an act of rebellion nowadays. So I'm just really glad that we were able to talk today, and I wanted to thank you for making the time as well.
Gosh, thank you. That's again, like hearing that is just I appreciate it, and I know the team appreciates it when they hear things like that as well. So thank you, and really happy to be here and have this conversation with you.
Of course, yeah, and we'll be tuning in on the wholesome snack, which I'm sure you're already planning in December, right?
It's in the works. Yep, it never stops.
All right,
uh,
remember to take a break as well. But
yes.
thank you so much, Jenny.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much to Jenny for her time, warmth, and uplifting presence. And to you for watching. If you like this podcast, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. See you in the next one.